Honestly, I have to say, that's probably one of the most savage things Blue Lock has shown us to date. And this is full of characters that are full of ego-centric personalities that are doing anything and everything for themselves. And we have a moment that I've been excited for because you knew it had to happen. I mean, I only had one person say to me when I originally brought up the concept of Nagi eventually separating himself, or at the very least playing soccer for himself, and in return leaving Reo behind. There was only one person who ever was like, no, he would never do that, which honestly, a blind man could see that eventually it would happen. But to see how he did it in the way he did, not because he hates him or he doesn't care about him as a friend, these two are clearly BFFs. But the fact of the matter was, they had a situation where we had our boys, Batra as well as Asagi as a duo, and then obviously Nagi as well as Reo here, and basically they had to make a team of 3, and well, Nagi wants to play with Asagi. If we remember in the prior match, Asagi was the character he shit on the most, like, you shouldn't be here, you don't belong here, if I had your talents I would have just quit playing altogether. And by the end of that match, Asagi was the character Nagi had the most interest in, because like, holy shit, like, what did this kid just do? I need to see what happens. It's a situation where you want to learn from, you want to see if you can outbeat him the next time if you ever potentially play. And the fact of the matter was, because Asagi's like, no, we already made an agreement, we're going to wait for one of a couple of people from our previous team. And then he's like, okay, if you're not going to join us, I'll join you. And I love the fact that, because these two are literally doing everything together, they're planning together. Hell, his entire reason Nagi ever starting the sport in general was because of him telling him to do so. And the fact that he just gets left behind, there's anger, there's resentment, but most importantly, there's heartbreak. As Nagi's just like, later bro, I gotta go do this, but I'm sure you'll be fine. Like, it's not like he thinks he'll be left behind, he thinks he'll end up passing with whatever team. Like, Nagi is clearly convinced both of them can make it by themselves, it's just, he needs to do this. And I love seeing someone who started to have no care at the beginning of the show for this sport now has such a desire to learn all there is to it, and you love to see the progression. Now, I do got a full live reaction to today's episode available on the Patreon, so do consider supporting if you want to see that, but let's talk about this episode, because this is the start of something brand new. We're in the new selection process, and they immediately from the training made it interesting, made me say if we had this type of tech in our own world, goddamn, I think everyone and their mother would want to play sports, because it's just kind of like a VR video game in a way. But I think, without a doubt, the thing people are going to come out the most anticipating is the way eliminations and progressions are going to happen. So I think this is hands down the most interesting at a first glance if we compare how this show started to where we're currently at in the second selection. Because you form a team of 3. If you can pass through and get your 100 goals in 90 minutes, you make a team of 3, and then ultimately you challenge another team of 3. Should the team lose, basically the victory team gets to pick one person from said team to add him to them, and then obviously 2v2 until eventually someone gets eliminated. And I think it's such an interesting concept to get up to like a team of 5 and then to ultimately end up progressing, because it's such an interesting way to boost ego but to crush the soul so easily. Because the entire second selection is designed around the concept of those who can make nothing into something will end up being fine, from being able to get 100 goals in the allotted time to, most importantly, be able to make do with anything. There's plenty of characters that we've seen who were kind of carried by their team and also feel like they wouldn't be able to survive by themselves. This selection is designed to wean out the negative players, the people who never will have a shot in hell. And I think that's why we see rankings like 15 or something on our boy Asagi, as we also have the number 1 ranking on someone like Rin, who is all about the ego. And I love the fact that for Asagi, he recognizes we could easily lose here. One of us could end up being forced on this team, or we could be one step closer to elimination. But Asagi looks at it as, that's someone you want to face against and hopefully put on your team, because that is a killer player to have. And honestly, Asagi's team is pretty stacked, let's be honest. Between Batra, him, as well as Nagi, they do have a powerhouse team, but the issue is they're going up against the first, the second, and the third best ranked players. The only thing that kind of makes me say, like, I'm still kind of betting on Asagi here is because they have no connection, right? There's no niceness, there's no cooperative team spirit, and in doing so, I'm wondering if that will be the bane of their existence, and then in return, if they do decide to take Rin on, if should they win anyway, because they could easily lose and then Botcher gets thrown away, or you never know, right? But just say, like, they win and they take her in and then he's just, like, not a good team player. Who knows what could happen, right? I think the egos could definitely clash there, so we'll see what they do. But when it came to the actual, like, the generic, here's get 100 goals on this high-tech goalie, I thought it was interesting how when the levels increased, the intensity increased, but most importantly, you know, Jinpachi says, like, this will be different and cater towards each person's skills, so the way they can overcome and win is based on their own talent. So it's not like you're forced in one way of winning sort of a thing. And for someone like Isagi, basically, you know, he gets in some goals, it's looking rather easy, and then you get some more holograms that pop up, and then they start moving, and then the spin of the rotation of the ball starts going crazy. Honestly, it kind of reminded me of the previous match where you thought to yourself, you knew they had to win as otherwise they'd be eliminated, but you started second-guessing yourself. You started saying, damn, I don't think they can do it, but they have to. And that's kind of how I felt with Isagi, because around the midway point of this section, I was like, honestly, it just feels like he's running out of time, but the biggest issue was that he was getting winded. I mean, you could just think about it. Kicking 100 times to score 100 times, that's exhausting in of itself. Add in all the times he misses, like, that's an exhausting time. And to do it in 90 minutes, yes, it's a nice amount of time, but it wears you down. So it's a good thing he did all that training in the prior episodes to get ready for this, because otherwise he would have been passing out from exhaustion or something like that. Maybe even having, like, heat stroke or something. You never quite know. And I think that's what I really like about Blue Lock is that, you know, everything that Jinpachi says at the start, you naturally want to push back and say this won't work, but then the more you see of the Blue Lock experience and, you know, the fact that they can blow all their funds on this training simulator, but then you see how perfect it is for each player, it's hard not to say that Jinpachi's way and method of madness of doing things, it actually would work. It really feels that way. And the way to make someone who just will take those shots, who will challenge the strongest person, because you could easily be a little coward and challenge people you know you can win against, or you can go against the best, prove that you deserve to be here, and in return gain a valuable player on your team, right? It's just something that makes so much sense, and the more you watch a Blue Lock, the more you love it. And typically these types of episodes are the ones that are the more boring, because they're the training, they're the setup for the next competition or whatever is going to happen. And honestly, this episode was just as exciting as many of the matches in prior Blue Lock episodes. Not as exciting as, say, maybe the last match we saw, because that was just top tier. But it's not bad in the slightest. It's entertaining, it's exciting, the character pairings are starting to get shifted around, and characters are breaking out of their shells in ways and faster ways than I was ever expecting. But yeah, this was a great episode. Excited to see where the second half of the season's going to go next year, and let me know what you're thinking down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here. Like I mentioned, full live reaction to today's episode is available on the Patreon. You can also get video shoutouts and a bunch of other perks as well, so do consider that if you so wish. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.